Well, let's move on. And today, the big talking point has been the fact that we've brought in regulations. The government that's been at loggerheads with various digital media platforms has now come up with a set of guidelines for digital media. And when I say digital media, that includes social media giants like Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and whatnot. That also includes your OTT platforms. It includes your Netflix and Amazon and MX Player and the rest. And it also includes your digital news websites, the news that you consume via any digital portal. And so for these various categories, there are sets of regulations that have now been brought in. So tonight we're going to do a special broadcast, and over the next 2 hours, we're going to break it down, help you understand what all the government has brought in, when does it become applicable, what is it that the industry really have to say about it. Just to give you the basic headlines here, government's main focus, as they say, has been to protect the user, which is you, to empower the user, and to bring in a robust grievance redressal system. So that is the first thing that the government actually highlighted in the news conference that was held today, that we want to ensure that the grievances of the users, the complaints that the users have, are duly taken note of and responded to. So you will have to, the social media giants will have to register a complaint within 24 hours of you raising an issue. They will have to resolve it within 15 days. There is also a very detailed structure that the government has announced of officers and compliance officers who need to be appointed by these digital giants. A chief compliance officer for India, also a grievance officer who will be based in India. The other interesting point is that the government has said you will have to, the social media portal will have to disclose the identity of the originator of a mischievous post. If there is a post which is objectionable in nature, especially if it is something against the integrity or sovereignty of our country, then the social media portals will be obligated to disclose who started it to the government. There are also several other provisions that I will take you through. For your understanding, there is a strong redressal system even for content which is sexually explicit content, which outrages the modesty of a woman. All of that, if an issue is raised and a complaint is made, will have to be removed in 24 hours. So let's begin with our first set of panelists. We're going to break it down into the various categories where guidelines have now been brought in. We'll also have a larger debate of what it means legally, what it means for your rights and my rights on the internet to be able to speak our minds, and if that is at all in danger, has our privacy also been kept in mind? All of those aspects will be covered here. I say good evening to Jiten Jain, Director for Digital Lab at Voyager Infosec, joining us this evening. Tarun Pathak, Research Director for Devices and Ecosystems at Counterpoint Research. Charu Pragya, spokesperson for the BJP. Ankit Lal, a social media strategist and author of India Social. Amber Sinha, Executive Director for Center for Internet and Society, also with us this evening. Good evening to all of you, and thank you for being with us. Let me actually start off with Tarun. And Tarun, let's first begin with the announcements made for the social media. That's been the long-standing controversy, what should be regulated, what can be regulated, and who has a bigger say. Your own views of how this changes the life of a social media portal and for a user.
I think this is something which was anticipated. First thing first, like it makes the life of the users much easier, because we have seen on an average every year 60 million new people joins the internet in India. And that's a big number, right? And I'll say like 99% of the people do not know what goes behind it in terms of privacy, in terms of security, in terms of free speech. And this is the right time to regulate these platforms, because such platforms have gained massive power in terms of content, in terms of regulating the content. So I think this is the right time, but the onus is now on these platforms, because government has put the ball on their court to look for on how to regulate this content. Because until now, most of these platforms, they have been doing the preemptive approach rather than reactive approach. They have their algorithms, they have their machine learning in place to restrict those kind of things. But now things will change because it will be determined on the basis of users on individual requests, which means they might need to tweak into their algorithms and the basics how these platforms work in an individual country like India.
Okay, I get the point that you're making, and obviously there's been a lot of conversation, so we were expecting some part of it. A lot of it had also been reported. Amber, to your mind, where do we stand with these regulations? The government says all of this is being done to stop the abuse and misuse. Now, I understand the abuse part where objectionable content, especially if it's, if there are threats, rape threats, murder threats, sexually explicit content, all of that gets pulled down. But what about the misuse of social media?
So I think the important thing to look at here is in the context of all the historical regulations that we've had, as well as the previous drafts that we've seen on intermediary liability. So, and there are again two parts to this draft. One deals with intermediaries and the other deals with OTT providers. The part that deals with the intermediaries, one will have to acknowledge that there is a significant improvement on the draft that we saw in 2018. The intermediary draft guidelines of 2018 had a lot of provisions that would have been extremely harmful for free speech online, and they have been tempered to a large extent. There are still some provisions which remain in this draft which are quite problematic. But some of the key problems that we saw in the previous draft, such as the proactive filtering requirement that all intermediaries were supposed to have, which would have had a very, very detrimental impact because of risk-averse actions taken by intermediaries driven by profit motives. In this case, some of those provisions have been rolled back. However, I think some of the big problems continue to remain with regard to traceability. Now, the traceability requirement, unlike the last draft, is only applicable to significant social media intermediaries as they are defined under this. And the way social media intermediaries are defined is so broad that they also include private messaging services such as WhatsApp and Signal. Now, the kind of traceability requirements that they have, given the information architecture of these services and given their technical structure, may not even be possible to implement. It's also unclear why end-to-end encrypted messaging services must be included within the definition of social media intermediaries. The other big issue is the newer provisions that have been included, which are based on the over-the-top service providers. Now, this is quite interesting because now the rules that we see, they draw their power specifically from some provisions of the Information Technology Act. Now, those provisions could be Section 79 2C, Section 69A, Section 87, Section 87 2C, or Section 87 2ZG. Now, it is very, very curious as to from what provisions of the Information Technology Act was it deemed that there were powers to make regulations about OTT services, which again, it's also a bit strange to see those two things being combined together. So that I think is a kind of overreach here in terms of trying to include regulations on OTT service providers, which need not have come in the form of this regulation. Also,
okay. So let's do one thing. You've raised a very interesting point, and I do want to talk about the OTTs as well. But because the subject is so vast, let's take it category by category and talk about social media first. And when we talk about social media, Ankit, what is your view of to what extent is it actually going to help fight social media abuse?
We need to make a very important distinction before we even start having this conversation, which is what individual liability and platform liability. See, a lot of the problems that we face are in terms of individual liability and abuses of the platform that individuals make. There are already enough provisions in the CRPC to take care of that. The problem is with the implementation and especially selective implementation of those CRPC acts. Now, coming to the platform liabilities. See, even in 2011, Mr. Kapil Sibal, who was the then Information Technology Minister, talked about preemptive control on the messaging platforms and social media platforms, which everybody, including me and many other activists, we oppose tooth and nail. Now, how are the current regulations which are talking about preemptive controlling using AI, which is not yet perfect, on how are the current regulations different from what Mr. Sibal was proposing? Also, the question is that when you want to control the platforms, and if you're talking right from OTT to messaging services to social media intermediaries, can they be governed by one single piece of law is something that we need to dwell upon. We don't understand, as a society, as a country, India is very far behind in terms of its IT laws. We need to draft much more stringent laws. We need to come up with very, very clear guidelines. The current set of guidelines is not very clear as to where it draws its power from and how it will actually implement what it proposes to implement. So all those questions need to be deeply thought about and dwelled into. Also, a lot of public consultation needs to be held. So the IT ministry did hold a lot of public consultations. But regarding OTT, the ministry hasn't held any public consultations. Not even the platforms themselves in question have been consulted. So all that needs to be thought about and taken into consideration.
Well, yes, OTT, I actually just read one big reaction that came out, which is of Ekta Kapoor welcoming these, but I understand the larger point they were making. That's actually also the point that's been raised even by the news websites and the news portals, because even for that industry, absolutely, they say absolutely no consultation has been done, to which the minister even responded saying, well, we don't know who to consult. We don't even know who the, main guys are, how to go about it. We are ready to talk about it if you come and speak to us now. But the fact is that the first set of guidelines are already here. So obviously a lot of them are not very happy with it. We're going to talk about it in just a bit. We'll also have the news minutes, Dhanya with us. But Jiten, let me ask you this. To the point that Ankit was making, broadly, does it look like, yes, the intention is good, we're moving in a good direction, we now need some more details of how it's going to function?
I would have to disagree with my dear friend Ankit. We are all, the product of social media movements in our college days, and we know how social media is used for creating movements and how powerful platform it is. But here, I think we must compliment government for standing up to the pressure of these social media platforms. These platforms have wielded so much power in themselves that they are challenging governments across the world, be it Australia, India, or UK. So finally, in the largest democracy, government has, taken the bullet and they have finally notified the guidelines. So first, in the entire guideline draft, what you have seen, there is absolutely no iota of control or any sort of even, slightest form of indication of control which is there. It is absolutely soft touch regulation, that too in the form of self-regulation and oversight of that self-regulation. One, I think there are multiple orders of Delhi High Court. There are IT laws which say that this company should have a grievance officer. They have been flouting for so long those laws and orders by appointing some random Gora chap sitting in Ireland as a grievance officer. I mean, do you want to appoint a grievance officer in Ireland for 40 crore users in India? Is that the law? And that person never responds. They have been making a mockery of Indian laws and they've been disrespecting our parliament, our governments, our society, our people. Second, what government is saying that any platform, like what happened in the US, that if you arbitrarily take down any content, block any account, or restrict any content or post, you will have to notify that user and that user can appeal against that your decision. And if they're not satisfied with your appeal, they can approach the government. Third, you see these, women have been harassed in abusing, trolling, revenge porn being uploaded, compromising obscene pictures uploaded by the, exes and all. So now government is saying that we will empower that section of society that if there is any complaint like that, these people will have to remove such content within 24 to 36 hours. And all these officers who are responsible in these guidelines, they have to appoint a compliance officer, grievance officer. All these people have to be now resident in India. They have to reside in India. They have to be available 24 hours. That's one. Second, when you come to OTT, let me ask you, Tanvi. I am amazed that you quoted Ekta Kapoor. Can you watch these series like Gandhi Baat and all with your family and with your children sitting in the dining room today? Tell me.
I'm just saying
No,
she's
no,
welcomed
can.
the regulations,
No.
Jitin.
No,
And as far as the
listen,
OTTs are
what I am asking
concerned,
is,
they're not yet willing
you
to
see,
come on our shows
yeah.
and have a
What I am saying
conversation
is that,
about it. They've not
yeah,
wanted to do
what I am
that. So
saying
we'll
is,
leave it for them
yes.
to decide, yeah.
No, what I'm saying is, you see, OTT platforms over the last 2-3 years, they suddenly popped up as a new media. There was no censorship, no regulation, no control,
I
no
don't
censor
think there
board.
should be
They have
censorship any
ended up
which
serving
ways.
soft.
And
No, no. They
neither
have
is the
ended.
government looking at censorship as far as my understanding is
1 minute.
concerned.
Just 60 seconds, yes. So they have been, serving soft porn on the name of, web series. The series are full of vulgar abuse and sometimes religious incitements. So what government is saying is that now you'll have to self-regulate. You will have to ensure that you classify content according to the age. They are not saying you don't make the content. Even if you're making a soft porn, just classify that content as above 18 and ensure that children are not able to watch it. Second, they are saying you can make a federation of your own, like electronic media or news portals, and then you comply with like they are doing with Cable Act or Press Council Act. And if that second layer of self-regulation also fails, then government might come in as an oversight mechanism. Now the question has been raised whether government has that power, and to make it clear to everyone, there is no new power in these guidelines, there is no new law.
Yeah.
What government has done, whatever existing power Ministry of Information Technology had under
Okay.
Section 69 and 79, they have divested the issues related to, I think, broadcasting, video content, and this film and news to the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting.
Okay, so
for that
Jitin, we'll come
context
to
now-
that point in just a bit. Let's take it, like I said, point by point. And we've heard everybody's view. Quick comments from Charu Pragya also. Charu, as far as the social media giants are concerned, you've been taking them head on all this while. But many would say that, well, for what the draft was, this looks like a softer version of what was intended.
Tanvi, social media is a tool to empower us. It's a tool to give us more power, to reach more people, for us to be more expressive. But something which is way too powerful also becomes not tempered with reason. I always quote George Orwell when I say this. Power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely, and that we've started seeing happening with social media in recent times, because people who have the reach have also shown how social media can be misused in all sorts of manners altogether. So this comes at a very good time, and I applaud the government for drafting something which is so reasonable. You are not stepping on anybody's toes as far as freedom of expression is concerned, but you're also making sure that if I have a grievance, it's going to be redressed. If I have a child at home and I am no longer watching my OTT platforms on a laptop or a tab alone, now it is going to be on my television, and it's been like that for a very long time. But why is it that material which is available on cable channels can be checked by parents, but OTT platforms there is no checking? So with this, there is also going to be a categorization, and we'll be able to keep our children safe. The government will be able to pinpoint exactly where misinformation started flowing, and that's very important. One more very important thing in these entire rules is these intermediaries will have to appoint an officer who's based in India and responsible for our concerns 24/7. In the past, we have seen that there was always an envelope being pushed from the Indian office to the foreign office, back to India, back to the government, and it was a struggle to pinpoint who is the responsible person. This will make the lives of our agencies easy. This will make the lives of women easy. This will make the lives of parents easy.
Okay, one grievance cell with a grievance officer. I hope he is able to take on the load of the number of social media users that we have in our country. Just quote the numbers that were given to us in the news briefing: 1.7 crore on Twitter, and 20 crore on Instagram, and so many more on WhatsApp. Not even going there.
40 crore on WhatsApp.
Yes, exactly. But I have two aspects to talk about, and let me take those forward. The first one that Charu just mentioned about tracking down and stopping misinformation. Now, how's that going to function, Amber? The government has very clearly said you will have to disclose to us who is the originator of a post if that post is objectionable for ABC reasons. Now, that's been a long-standing, deadlock between the two sides. The social media guys saying, well, it's impossible for us often to trace it back, especially in WhatsApp's case. Is this something that could become problematic?
So I think it is important to draw a distinction between social media and messaging services here, right? As far as social media is concerned, then there are specific users who post on it, and then there are ways to trace back that content. With regard to end-to-end encrypted services, the challenge here is about the information architecture of these messaging services itself. If the sort of metadata that the government is looking for, the way these services are designed is not being stored, it becomes nigh impossible for them to actually implement the traceability requirements. The other issue is that the traceability requirements, and I think much like somebody said just earlier that power corrupts absolutely. The end-to-end encrypted services are also an important privacy-preserving tool that exists across the world and are also used by people in this country. So when you have encrypted messaging services available, your chats are encrypted, and it is only possible for people at two ends to see it. So nobody can intercept that communication and actually gain access to them. Now, if we are looking at traceability requirements for services like WhatsApp and Signal, the challenge is going to be what is the detrimental impact that it will have on users. So I'll go back to the point that was made earlier. There are various kinds of power imbalances that we are trying to fix here. One is the power imbalance between the users and the platform.
Yeah.
And then there is also the power imbalance between the platform and sort of the nation state. Now, the one good part of these rules is that to a large extent, user empowerment has been focused on. And so some of the things like, for instance, transparency requirements that platforms have. The problem right now is that the platforms operate essentially through a black box. The way they take action, the way they respond to, for instance, complaints and abuse as well, that remains behind a black box. There is no way to question it. And the transparency requirements that this has brought about could be a welcome change towards addressing that issue. However, if we look at the impact that this could have both on privacy and the lack of privacy, the way it will chill speech, that doesn't go ahead and empower the user. And it's again, I think it is required to look at the technology in use and how exactly that would be done.
Okay. Charu, you want to come in here?
Yeah. Thanks, Tanvi. With all due respect to Mr. Sinha, and I know you understand technology much better than I do, I want to put one point across. When you say end-to-end encrypted, we also have to understand that in WhatsApp, you can make groups. In WhatsApp, you can send forwarded messages, you can broadcast, and many a times misinformation is spread so much and so quickly like wildfire that it's all over the place before people realize it's misinformation or it's fake news. So that also has to come under some kind of surveillance, which doesn't mean that the government is encroaching on privacy. It is just that when something is identified as fake news or identified as something which is going to spread violence or cause some unrest, these WhatsApp officers, and I assume you're talking about WhatsApp here, should be able to help our authorities and not put their hands up and say, well, it's end-to-end encrypted and I am...
Okay, so let me ask Jiten as well, because this has always been a debating point. I understand, Charu, what you're saying, and these groups where these messages get forwarded, WhatsApp has taken whatever steps in the past to try and limit that kind of spread. But Jiten, is it possible to find out who's the creator without having to breach a person's privacy on a chat platform?
This is a facade and propaganda being spread by these platforms like WhatsApp that we can't track the content because it will break end-to-end encryption. This is an absolute disinformation of highest order. They need not break any encryption. They need not intrude anybody's privacy, and they can still provide what government is looking for. For example, suppose if you upload a URL or a photo or a video on Facebook, every photo, every video on Facebook has a unique ID, so that when you delete, modify and stuff, when you share. Likewise on WhatsApp, even a 10th class kid who's into coding can know that moment you upload a content, you can assign a unique ID to it by using several hash generators like MD5 hash and all. Now, what can be done is that anybody who uploads a video, photo, or a URL, just provide a unique hash. Anybody second time uploads the same photo or forwards that same photo, apply the same tag to it. Just keep a track who was the first uploader. Now, what government is looking for, suppose if there is a video which is abusing you or me, and there are 10,000 people who have forwarded it and running a paid propaganda from a foreign country or whatever, or breaking the law, it is unlawful content inciting riots, then government wants to know that for that unique ID of that video, who was the first person who uploaded, and just give us the contact details of him. Where is the need of breaking privacy or breaking encryption? Absolutely not. This is a misinformation and jugglery of words being done by these companies like WhatsApp, because they will have to invest in resources. Now they are already doing it in, for example, for YouTube. If I upload the recording of this show and I want to run YouTube ads, YouTube will immediately tell me that, oh, this content belongs to Times Now. They have a unique content ID, and if you want to run it, any advertisement you run, the revenue will go to Mirror Now. Now, for money making, you can do all those things. For money making, you can classify that this content contains pornographic or violent images. But when it comes to your closed door platforms where you're not making any money,
Okay.
you are giving this all talk that it is not possible and all. You ask any WhatsApp guy to appear on a show and prove us how it is not technically possible.
But so let
them.
me ask on the panel, is there anybody here who disagrees or wants to challenge Jitin on
And
this?
last one point, Tanvi, just one point.
Yeah.
Suppose when there is a message which is has been forwarded so many times. These days, WhatsApp tells you that this message has been forwarded so many times. You
Correct.
can forward only to 5 people and 1 people. How are they tracking? How are they tracking? By unique IDs. So why can't do it for everyone and just give the unique ID to government and the person who uploaded it first?
Okay.
No, you ask anybody in WhatsApp to counter this. They will not speak. They will only spread misinformation to proxies that this is not possible, that is not possible, why we should not do it.
Okay.
And then scare users कि आपकी privacy टूट जाएगी, इसलिए मत करवाओ.
All right, point taken. Anybody who wants to challenge this or disagree, or we'll otherwise wait for WhatsApp to come out with a statement when they want to, because this I'm sure will become one debating point again, because the government and multiple times actually the minister there emphasized on this, that the first post originator, the originator essentially of a problematic post, if the government or any accepted authority asks for it, they will have to reveal it. Now let's move on to the other part, and this was also touched upon by a couple of our panelists, which is the grievance redressal system. And I'm just trying to understand how things can change, how things do change in terms of more transparency or accountability. So the government has essentially said that there will be level 1 of self-regulation, where there will be a grievance redressal officer based in India. The officer will ensure that the complaints are redressed and resolved within 15 days. Then there will be a level 2 of the self-regulating bodies, where there will be perhaps an eminent person or a retired Supreme Court or High Court judge who will be heading this panel of 4 to 5 people. They will have to register themselves with the government and then look into the complaints that are coming through. And then, of course, there is an oversight mechanism that the government itself will be setting up, which will be level 3 and the highest level. Now, this is the 3-level plan and structure that they have given, Tarun. But if it is about a platform not being frank enough to me about why they have decided to remove some content or block some content or not block a user who's problematic from one point of view, and they simply say, oh, as per our policy, we don't see merit, can that answer change because of this structure?
Exactly, and I think if you look at of all this regulation, this is the very important reason, because of all the panelists we have here, remember the last time we tried to reach out to anyone in the social media? I don't remember, because it has happened with me, like someone impersonated or taken a photo or something, and I feel like calling to a particular let's say call center of these particular social media giants, and I could not find anything. The closest thing I could do is I call up my 10-15 people I know and tell them to block it or do something about it. But that's a very process which is obviously driven by users, and that can add to the agony of the users. Now imagine a scenario when user know, okay, here is something that can be looked out maybe 24 hours within the line. So the whole point is power lies more in the hands of the users, and they are more clear about it, how we are going to approach this particular thing. And yes, to your point, from these platforms point of view, they need to tweak or change, because most of these platforms work on their let's say artificial intelligence and algorithm as of now, which they need to tweak in favor of the user, because what they have been doing now is more or less that could take like 1 day or 2 days or 3 days, but now the power will lie more on the user's hand in this scenario.
All right, let's also say good evening to Dhanya Rajendran of the News Minute, who is joining us. But Dhanya, before I come to you, just on what we were talking, quick comment also from Ankit. Ankit, will it change the response I get from the intermediary? I mean, they may have to give me that response now in 24 hours or 15 days, close my case. But does the transparency and the accountability really get impacted?
Well, now that the government is washing off its hands from the accountability part and putting it in the platforms, and see, the platforms have to make some improvement. There's no doubt about that. But can the government totally wash away its hands from whatever is happening on these platforms, or the government, using the existing laws, has to intervene? See, there have been instances where several members of the ruling party have been caught spreading misinformation. One is creator, second is spreader. We are not talking at all about the people who are spreading these misinformations. We are not talking about people who are spreading hate. Now, the current draft doesn't talk at anything about people who spread these messages. It is talking about the people who make such messages, which in the current scheme of things will be very, very difficult to track. Why are we not talking about the people who spread misinformation, make mock videos and post it online, women with rape? Why are we not even talking about those? And that can be done in the ambit of existing CRPC laws.
For which the laws already exist, right? That's where we are constantly asking the government to be accountable and to take action. Those laws already exist, Charu. One minute, Jiten. Yeah, Charu.
No, Tanvi, I disagree with Ankit, and the reason is very clear. First of all, the government is not washing its hands of anything. The government is responsible for making sure issues are dealt with, but the government needs information from these social media platforms, and that has to be more forthcoming than it already is. And the point is, when the government has one set of rules which applies to all these platforms, they will feel more responsible. See, there cannot be a difference in the policy one platform has over another platform. You have to put everybody on the same pedestal and make sure it's all treated in the same way. See, you can always have a very rapt view that if somebody is climbing on Capitol Hill, you object to it. But if the same thing
I don't think that's what we were talking about. That's you talking about the alleged double standards of any intermediary. That's not what we were talking about at all. But yeah, quickly, Jiten, 30 seconds, because I really need to move to the next category.
I want to ask Ankit, if government is holding these platforms accountable, you are saying that government is washing away its hands and just running away from accountability. If government wants to run an oversight mechanism in INB ministry, then you say that government is indulging in censorship. Bhai, kare kya? Kuch kare ya na kare? Aap batao. Second, you can't selectively say that one party is spreading misinformation. I think it's Congress, BJP, or Aam Aadmi Party. Everybody that is
no, I don't think he said one party. I don't think he said one party, though I can understand why you thought so, but that irrespective of that, let's move on.
Be it anybody, the culprits need to be brought to the book. They need to be punished.
Okay. Gentlemen, let's move on to the second point, because many of you raised it in your opening remarks, and I really want to talk about it. And I want to first go to Dhanya about it. Dhanya, there's been much controversy, much debate already about the government's intentions of regulating or bringing about some guidelines for the news websites, for the digital media essentially, and the digital news media. From what has come today, what is your own understanding? The first point was, many said that, well, there was no consultation, to which the minister today said, well, who was supposed to consult, we don't know. Then I think you're on mute.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
It is really surprising that the minister does not know which are the digital media platforms in this country. And he very coolly said, who are we supposed to consult? Well, from DigiPub, the foundation that I am a chairperson of, we had written to the minister saying that we would like to be part of consultations. But of course, we got no reply. And there are many portals which are based out of New Delhi itself, where the minister works from. But surprisingly, though he may share links of these websites, he does not know that they exist. That's the first problem. The second problem is the government is saying that, look, there are a code of ethics for television and for print. We want to bring the same for digital. Now, if there has to be any code of ethics, I'm of the opinion it should be self-regulation from the industry itself. Now, to counter what the government is saying, what is the code of ethics for TV and for print? It is a parliament enactment. There is a Press and Registration of Books Act. The Press Council of India's Code of Ethics is actually is used through the enactment through Parliament. Here, the government is trying to bring these rules and then do. That's the first problem. The second, the ministers kept saying that, oh, digital platforms actually work without any kind of law, without any kind of barriers. That is completely false. All digital media platforms work in this country and they are bound by the restrictions of Article 19 of the Constitution. All the laws of this country, whether it's IPC, defamation, hate speech, obscenity, everything applies to digital media. So first, you don't consult anyone. Second, you spread this narrative that they are all above the purview of law. That's my second problem. And the third thing is that the definition by the government is so open-ended. There is one place where the government says anyone who does news and brings 2 or 3 people and does business of news. So would that include thousands of YouTube channels where people do news, they bring guests, they also have a business model because YouTube pays them, right? So what we should essentially be looking at is to make platforms responsible, whether it's Google, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. But for the government to come in and do censoring and censoring of content, first thing, it's a subjective issue. Second, it's going to be such a massive exercise. Imagine if the IT cell of the BJP today decides they don't like a story on the News Minute, or Aam Aadmi Party decides they don't like a story on The Wire, and they just spread it on their WhatsApp group saying, let's all write to their grievance cell. I'm going to be inundated with thousands and thousands of complaints from all political parties. My grievance officer has to look through that. And then it goes to the next step, which is self-regulation by a body like the PCI. Then there's a level 3, where there's an interdepartmental ministerial committee. Now, why should an interdepartmental ministerial committee be looking at content itself, which is my other question. Why can't it be an autonomous body like the PCI has?
Dhanya, I'm sorry, Dhanya, I think this is not what you are making out to be. There are two things. One, everybody, including me, you or this channel is bound by the Indian laws. Then why have press council for newspapers? Why have a broadcasting authority for channels? There has to be some sort of regulation, right? And
no, 1 minute, Jiten, is there a correction you wanted to make? Because she wasn't done with her point.
Yes.
So then make the correction.
Because
we'll get into your rebuttal later.
No, there is no grievance officer which is to be appointed by these platforms, number one. There has to be just one authorized representative whom government can contact. There is absolutely no other compliance. They don't even have to register with the government.
Hold on. You're talking about a different thing. That's for the social intermediary. That is for the social intermediary. They have to have a nodal officer, a contact officer, and a compliance officer. I am not.
She's not talking about that.
I am talking about digital media websites, news websites.
The only compliance for digital media is that you will have to disclose at least one person who is responsible for that portal and give his details to government so that we can communicate. What is happening now? There are reputed platforms like News Minute, Wire, Print. Reputed platforms.
No, 1 minute. So that's exactly what she said. That's exactly what she said. She said a grievance officer who gets inundated by complaints from political parties. Let her finish, please. Yes.
No, because they can complain against also. That mechanism is for everyone. 1,000 people can complain against me also, right?
Jiten, can I please make the rules of the conversation on Mirror Now clear to you once again? We don't interrupt each other. I will come to you if you have a rebuttal to make. Let her please finish her point so that the viewers understand what you may already know and may want to contradict. Yes. Dhanya.
I'm sorry, the delay. To interrupt, there is a delay.
The point is that no one is saying that digital media portals should not come under some sort of regulation or that there should be no code of ethics. But my simple point is the way this is going to be implemented is very problematic. There is no clear definition of who the government is saying are people who cover news. That's my first problem. Why is there no parliament enactment is my second issue. And when the interministerial committee comes, it becomes very subjective also. And we have seen what has happened. For example, when the Delhi riots happened, 2 channels in Malayalam were stopped for 1 day. It was a very subjective call taken by someone in the department, by the ministerial committee. So there are all these issues. And my primary issue is, why was no one in the industry consulted?
Yes.
Why can't the media industry also have some sort of we can come up with our own self-regulatory mechanisms. And remember, as I said, the PCI is through a parliamentary enactment that there is a code of ethics. It was not brought in like this.
Okay, so let's take it point by point now. Point number 1, and this has been something, Charu Pragya, that every news website in our country today has raised. what happened to the consultations. Everybody knows there is an association called the DigiPub, and they've together spoken about it. Everybody also knows how many of these organizations have actually had interactions with the government. There have been notices that have been sent to some of the other websites by the government. We can't turn around and now say we don't know who they are and who to talk to.
I think what the government meant to say was that they keep increasing by the minute, by the day, and every time you start to make a list, as my co-panelist also just said, sometimes it is YouTubers who are imparting news. There are other agencies, there is print, there is video, there is a lot that is happening. So I think that's what the government meant. But, coming down to the question of consultation, I think on every single rule that the government wants to pass, if we just sit down with consultations and then who the consultations are happening with, which side of the story they represent.
Yes, that's how it works. That is how it works in a democratic country where you're making rules for any industry. That's how it works, Charu Pragya, unless the government wants to rewrite this.
Because here is a government which is actually chosen by the people, right? You've chosen this government because you trust this government to make the rules and the laws on your behalf.
No, I don't trust the government to make all the rules for me. I'm sorry. And one more thing,
I don't know how the rules
Okay, one at a time. Yes, Charu, finish your point.
So, let me finish because Jitin stopped for you.
Finish the point, Charu, yes.
So my point is that if we get into so many consultations and cross consultations and then somebody agrees and somebody doesn't agree, we will not get a lot done. But, I disagree with a couple of things that she was saying. She was saying self-regulation exists and that should be sufficient. Well, if self-regulation was such a powerful thing, we would not need any laws. Everybody would be morally absolutely utopian. There would be no corruption. Nobody would have any sort of XYZ ideas which are not in line with the law. That does not exist. That's exactly why self-regulation is not a be-all and end-all, and the government has to step in with wider...
Okay. So firstly, there are laws that exist in our country and everybody has to abide by them. And we're not talking about any industry. This is the media, the news media that we are talking about, where if you say that the government doesn't need to talk to the stakeholders before bringing in a set of rules and then say, oh, we don't know who to talk to, that's the concerning point. Dhanya wanted to respond before I go to our other panelists. Yes.
I don't know if anyone here is an expert in OTT platform, but I saw in the press conference the minister kept saying there's no self-regulation for OTT, which is not true. There are at least 2 self-regulatory mechanisms which OTT platforms have signed. I think one was signed in 2019 and another was signed in 2020. Around 13 platforms have signed. So to also say that there is no self-regulatory mechanism is wrong.
Okay. Jitin, you wanted to make a point, yeah.
I think I may so much disagree on many points with Dhanya, but I agree on one point. I think DigiPub should have been consulted. If they have not been consulted, I think we all should be sorry that this is how a democratic society should work. They have done well. We can agree to disagree with them. They should have been consulted. But on a different point of regulation, I think, you run a reputed platform via print or, Op India, whatever, we may agree and disagree. But there are thousands of channels running on YouTube which are saying the Third World War has started with China. 1,500 people have died in the name of news. There are thousands of such fake news channels or channels which are masquerading as news channels or publications which are running, sometimes by foreign agencies, sometimes by people who just want to do clickbait journalism to add some revenue points. I think they have to be controlled. It is in that spirit, I think we all have to sit down that we must be able to differentiate between the reputed platforms and these fake ones, and the reputed one should own up to some sort of editorial responsibility of the content they're publishing. That is my immediate submission to make.
Okay, I wanted to go across to Amber as well, since in his opening comments he had referred to the news websites as well.
I think with the news websites, the key thing that we have to see from there are a couple of regulatory points here. This is not an appropriate body of rules in which, along with the intermediary guidelines, should mix the OTT guidelines. And to kind of echo what Dhanya was saying, for intermediary guidelines, we've gone through a long process of consultation. And if you see draft by draft, it has improved. This draft is a significant improvement on the previous draft of 2018 that came out. And that is the value of having these consultations. And I think in most sort of liberal, robust democracies that we will see, there is a system of notice and consent, which is sort of notice and response, which is provided to industry bodies, which is provided to the key stakeholders to respond to them. So the fact that the OTT guidelines have been mixed with the intermediary guidelines will only, I think, as they begin to be implemented, will muddle matters a bit. Because already, as we are going through, I think it's only the first day that it has come out, but as we're going through the drafting language in detail, there are lacunae and there are some sort of lack of clarity that is emerging. The second thing is just about there is power to draft these rules that is drawn from the provisions of the Information Technology Act. While there is a clear power to draft rules under the provisions that are mentioned, which govern intermediaries, there is no clear power that at least I can see that can be discerned which can govern OTTs here. So that to create laws of that nature, which could be subject to a legal challenge later, is also not a productive exercise.
Okay, interesting points that you've raised here. I just want a clarification from what you were listing out, Dhanya. The process for grievances is the same for digital as well, the 3 level, right? Level 1, 2, 3, including in a committee that the government then sets up. That's valid for social media as well as news websites.
The televisions come under the National Broadcasters Association code.
Yeah.
Yeah, in that there's 2 levels. One is the grievance officer, and the second is the self-regulatory mechanism. And then the third level, which is the interdepartment ministerial committee, comes through the Cable Network Act. I mean, what that act is called. Here, through the rules, they are trying to bring all the level 3s together. But anyway, I have already said what I have to say about the whole grievance redressal mechanism.
Okay, so what happens from here on, Dhanya Rajendran? Is the industry going to get together, reach out to the government for conversation on it? Because today at least he said, well, we are ready to talk if you want to come and talk about this. Is there, I also saw some of the others extremely upset about what has been announced today, saying, well, we will also explore a legal route.
Well, a lot of people are saying that they will explore a legal option, considering that the government is using 69A and 79 of the IT Act to bring these changes, and many are of the opinion that they cannot bring intermediaries under these 2 sections. So, yeah, see, I think even if someone goes to court, the entire thing may not be struck down, but there are portions which can be challenged quite strongly. I do agree that no one is going to be saying there should be no regulation, but how much, in what capacity, where should the government step in? Do we want a model where the government finally decides which content is right or wrong? If someone has a problem with that content, these are things which will be, I think, contested in court.
Okay, there is a larger challenge here, Tarun, but can that really be combined with the established credible news websites that function and genuinely do the job of disseminating news out there? Can we really see that the problem of those who may exist on any other digital platform and be running their, content in the garb of news have to be regulated? So these are the rules.
Right. So if you look at right now, the content which has generated in the past 2 years, so I'm talking mostly on the content side, we can further divide it as a short format content or a long format content. So if you look at these guidelines, these are more or less, it's a good thing we have started. But going forward, I believe that this is going to be a bit more complex, because imagine a scenario if someone is doing a live video on WhatsApp or something like this, or someone uploading something on WhatsApp or let's say on Facebook after some time. How will you differentiate those form of content? Because a short format content can be really, really nasty if it aims to destroy some user or so. But the long format content can be regulated, self-regulated. So I think eventually it all boils down to different forms, contents, and subcategories as well. And this is a good start, I will say. Like, at least the discussion will start, and government opted for the pull strategy rather than a push strategy in that sense.
Completely out of time on this conversation. We've covered just about 2 of the segments that we want to address. There is so much more in the vast set of announcements that came today, but a big thank you to all of the panelists who joined us in this conversation. So largely, viewers, the sense that I've got from the first 1 hour of conversation, yes, as far as the news websites are concerned, there is a problem, as they say, that there was absolutely no conversation, no consultation done when these rules were brought about. If the idea is to clap down on 1,001 other other content creators who may exist on YouTube, can that really be the excuse that you use to bring in the set of regulations for the websites without speaking to them, the news websites and the news media, be it on broadcast or on digital? The point here is about those who are bringing out and giving you news at this point. Apart from that, most of our experts say, as far as the user is concerned, user as in you and me, these seem to be a good set of guidelines in an attempt to try and empower us. A lot of it will actually depend on how much of this gets implemented and to what extent are we able to ensure that the social media giants follow this. When it comes to setting up a grievance cell and deploying those 3 different designated grievance officers, compliance officers, who will then have to ensure monthly compliance reports, who will then have to ensure complaints are registered in 24 hours, will then have to ensure that your grievance is actually resolved in 15 days. All of that, if it happens and empowers you as a user, it also seeks to protect you from any kind of abuse that may be taking place on social media. So let's hope that brings about a lot of change. On the other side, we speak more about the legal and the legalities involved with these guidelines. Stay with me.